There are moments in life when you think nobody sees your struggle. You smile in front of people, but deep inside you are tired of waiting, tired of praying, tired of wondering when things will finally change. But hear this clearly today. This message did not appear before you by accident. God is speaking directly to your spirit right now. You may have felt delayed, forgotten, or overlooked, but heaven has not lost your address. Every tear, every sleepless night, every silent battle you fought alone, God saw it all. And today He wants you to understand something powerful. Your current situation is not your final destination. Sometimes God allows silence not because He abandoned you, but because He is preparing you. Seeds grow in hidden places before they ever break the ground. And many of you listening right now are in that hidden season. You cannot see the breakthrough yet, but something is already moving behind the scenes. God says, stop doubting your value because of your delays. Stop measuring your future by your present pain. What I placed inside of you is greater than the fear trying to stop you. This is the moment to wake your faith back up. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Because the same God who carried you through your darkest season is about to reveal why you had to walk through it in the first place. If you are listening to this message today, take it as confirmation. God has not forgotten you. Your story is still being written, and the next chapter will not look like the last one. There are people listening to this right now who have been asking God the same question over and over again. Why is it taking so long? You prayed for the opportunity, but the door stayed closed. You asked for clarity, but confusion remained. You believed things would change this year, this month, maybe even this week, yet nothing seems different. And slowly, disappointment started turning into doubt. But God says your delay is not your denial. Timing matters. Because God does not operate according to panic, pressure, or human expectations. He operates according to purpose. Many people want blessings, but they are not ready for the responsibility attached to those blessings. Sometimes you are asking God for something your current mindset cannot yet sustain. That is why preparation always comes before elevation. A tree that grows too fast without strong roots cannot survive the storm. In the same way, if God released everything immediately, some people would lose the very thing they prayed for because they were never spiritually prepared to handle it. You must understand that God sees the full picture while you only see the moment. You see today. But God sees 10 years ahead. You see the pain of waiting, but God sees the danger He is protecting you from. There are relationships He delayed because they would have destroyed your peace. There are opportunities He blocked because success without wisdom could have ruined your character. There are seasons where heaven says wait because timing is part of the miracle itself. Think about this. A farmer does not plant seeds in the morning and demand a harvest by evening. Growth takes time. Development takes time. Transformation takes time. Yet many people lose faith simply because they cannot see immediate results. Just because something is invisible does not mean God is inactive. Some of the greatest works of God happen in hidden places. While you are waiting, God is shaping your discipline, your patience, your endurance, and your faith. Waiting seasons reveal what truly lies inside you. Anyone can praise God when life is comfortable, but real faith is revealed when you continue trusting Him in uncertainty. That is where spiritual maturity grows. God says, do not compare your timeline to someone else's. Some people are frustrated because they keep watching others succeed. They see people getting married, building businesses, buying homes, and stepping into opportunity, as they have prayed for themselves. But comparison is dangerous because you do not know the full story behind what you are seeing. What looks like success on the outside may hide brokenness on the inside. God's plan for your life is unique and your timing is connected to your assignment. There are moments when delay is actually protection. Imagine arriving early to something you are not prepared for. The blessing that should have built you could break you instead. That is why wisdom understands that God's timing is not punishment, it is precision. Heaven never moves late. God knows the exact moment when the right door, the right people, the right opportunity, and the right season must come together. And hear this carefully. Just because you waited a long time does not mean your breakthrough will arrive slowly. God can change a situation in one moment. One phone call can change your future. One opportunity can shift your entire life. One divine connection can open doors you never imagined. Again, the waiting season may have been long, but the reward can arrive suddenly. So stop speaking negatively about your future. Stop saying, nothing good ever happens for me. Stop declaring defeat over your own life. Your words carry power. Instead, begin to thank God even before you see the result. That is faith. Faith says, I may not understand the process, but I trust the one controlling the process. God says your waiting season has not been wasted. Every disappointment taught you something. Every closed door redirected you. Every painful season strengthened you. And when the right moment arrives, you will finally understand why things had to happen the way they did. One day you will look back and realize that God was never ignoring you. He was aligning everything perfectly according to divine timing. Something has shifted in the spirit, and many people can feel it even if they cannot explain it. The season you have been living in is coming to an end. For a long time, you carried burdens that drained your energy. You fought battles silently. You smiled in front of people while carrying pressure nobody understood. There were nights you questioned yourself, questioned your purpose, and even questioned whether your prayers were reaching heaven at all. But God says the season has changed, and you cannot keep thinking like the person you used to be. One of the biggest mistakes people make is remaining emotionally attached to seasons God already ended. Some people are still mourning doors that closed years ago. They are still replaying old failures, old betrayals, and old disappointments in their minds every single day. But if God removes something from your life, there was a reason for it. You cannot step into a new season while holding on to the pain of the last one. When seasons change in nature, everything adjusts. The atmosphere changes. The temperature changes. The environment changes. In the same way, spiritual seasons also require change. God says, you are entering a season where your mindset must become stronger than your fear. You cannot carry old doubt into a new assignment. You cannot speak defeat while asking heaven for victory. The season has changed, but your words, habits, and thinking must change too. There were things you tolerated in your past season that you can no longer tolerate now. Some relationships distracted you from your purpose. Some environments weakened your confidence. Some people only appeared when they needed something from you, but disappeared when you needed support. God allowed certain separations because your next season requires clarity, focus, and spiritual growth. Many people think breakthrough only means money or success, but sometimes the greatest breakthrough is peace. Peace in your mind, peace in your emotions, peace in your spirit. Some of you are entering a season where confusion will finally leave your life. The things that once overwhelmed you will no longer control you. God is restoring you. ER strength after a long season of emotional exhaustion. But here's the important part. New seasons require new faith. You cannot expect change while staying spiritually asleep. God is calling you to rise higher. There are gifts inside you that have remained dormant because fear convinced you to stay small. There are ideas, talents, and dreams heaven placed inside you long ago. Yet insecurity kept you from pursuing them. But God says this is not the season to hide anymore. The enemy always attacks people who are close to transformation. That is why the pressure became intense. That is why discouragement tried to surround your mind. The attack was not proof that God abandoned you. It was proof that something valuable is ahead of you. Darkness fights hardest when light is about to appear. You may not see the full picture yet, but God is already arranging things behind the scenes. Certain opportunities are moving toward you. Certain answers are being prepared. Certain connections are being aligned. And what once felt impossible will begin to unfold at the right moment. Your responsibility now is to stay spiritually ready for where God is taking you. Stop speaking like your life will always remain the same. Stop identifying yourself by your worst season. That difficult chapter was real, but it was not permanent. God never intended for you to live stuck in survival mode forever. There comes a time when heaven calls you out of fear, out of limitation, and into purpose. This new season may feel uncomfortable at first because growth always stretches you beyond what feels familiar. But do not run back to what God already delivered you from. Some people return to old habits because change feels unfamiliar. Yet every level of growth requires courage. You must trust God enough to move forward even when you cannot see every detail clearly. God says the season of constantly doubting yourself is ending. The season of feeling forgotten is ending. The season of emotional heaviness is ending. You are stepping into a season where your faith will become stronger, your vision will become clearer, and your purpose will become undeniable. The struggle may have lasted longer than expected, but it did not come to destroy you. It came to prepare you for the season that is now beginning. Fear has stopped more dreams than failure ever could. Many people are not trapped by their circumstances. They are trapped by the voice inside their mind, constantly telling them they are not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough, or not capable enough. Fear speaks loudly, and if you listen to it long enough, it will convince you to stay in places God already called you to leave. God says you cannot walk in faith while constantly agreeing with fear. The two cannot lead your life at the same time. One will always overpower the other. Fear says, what if everything goes wrong? Faith says, what if God is already making a way? Fear focuses on obstacles. Faith focuses on possibilities. Fear magnifies the problem. Faith magnifies the power of God. Many people think faith means never feeling afraid, but that is not true. Faith means moving forward even when fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something greater matters more than fear. Some of the strongest people in history were afraid before taking their next step, but they refused to let fear become their master. Right now, there are people listening who know deep inside that God has been calling them higher. You feel it in your spirit. There is something you were meant to start, something you were meant to leave behind, or somewhere you were meant to go. Yet every time you think about it, fear begins speaking. Fear tells you that you will fail. Fear reminds you of your past mistakes. Fear points at your weaknesses instead of your potential. But God says your past does not disqualify your future. Some people are still carrying shame from old failures, and because use of that shame, they stop believing anything good could happen for them again. They think because they failed once, They are doomed to repeat failure forever. But failure is not your identity. Mistakes are lessons, not life sentences. You must understand that fear grows strongest when you spend too much time focusing on what you cannot control. The future becomes overwhelming when you try to carry tomorrow's problems before tomorrow arrives. That is why faith requires trust. Trust means believing that even when you cannot see the full path, God already knows where He is leading you. There are blessings connected to obedience that fear will never allow you to experience. Some doors only open when you decide to step forward despite uncertainty. Imagine if every great leader, inventor, or visionary had surrendered to fear. Entire destinies would have remained buried under insecurity and doubt. Fear also isolates people. It convinces them to hide their gifts, hide their voice, and hide their true identity. Some people spend their entire lives pretending to be smaller than they really are because they fear criticism, rejection, or failure. But God did not create you to shrink back from your purpose. He created you to walk boldly in what He placed inside you. The enemy understands something powerful. If he can control your fear, he can limit your future. That is why negative thoughts attack your mind so aggressively. Fear wants to make you believe you are alone, forgotten, weak, and incapable. But God says you are stronger than the battle surrounding you. There will always be reasons to doubt. There will always be risks involved in growth. There will always be voices trying to discourage. But faith is the ability to keep moving anyway. Faith says, even if the process is difficult, I will trust God through it. Faith says, even if I do not understand everything right now, I believe my life still has purpose. And hear this clearly. Your current fear is number T bigger than God's power. The mountain standing in front of you may look impossible, but impossible situations are where faith becomes powerful. Some of the greatest miracles happen only after people reach the end of their own strength and finally learn to depend completely on God. Stop rehearsing negative outcomes in your mind every day. Stop imagining disaster before anything even happens. What you feed consistently will grow stronger inside you. If you constantly feed fear, fear will dominate your thoughts. But if you feed your faith through prayer, discipline, gratitude, and trust in God, your confidence will begin to rise again. God says this is your season to break agreement with fear, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of starting over, the fear of not being enough. Those fears have controlled your decisions long enough. It is time to move forward with faith, knowing that God did not bring you this far just to abandon you now. Many people want blessings, but very few people want obedience. They want the reward without the discipline, the breakthrough without the surrender, the harvest without the preparation. But God says obedience is the key that unlocks doors many people spend years praying to open. There are blessings connected to your next act of obedience, and until you move when God tells you to move, certain things in your life will remain delayed. Obedience is difficult because it often requires trusting God before you understand what He is doing. Human nature wants certainty. People want every detail explained before they take a step. But faith does not work that way. God will sometimes give you instructions that challenge your comfort zone, stretch your patience, and test your trust. The question is not whether you understand everything. The question is whether you trust the one giving the instruction. There are people listening right now who already know what God has been speaking to their hearts. For some, God told you to err. Let go of toxic relationships, but you stayed because loneliness scared you. For others, God told you to stop compromising your values, but the pressure to fit in became stronger than your conviction. Some people were called to start something meaningful, but fear kept convincing them to wait for the perfect moment. Yet delayed obedience is still disobedience. One reason obedience matters so much is because your decisions shape your direction. Small choices made consistently over time create the future you eventually live in. Every day you are either moving closer to purpose or further away from it. Many people ask God to change their lives while continuing habits that destroy their peace, discipline, and focus. But God cannot bless patterns that are pulling you away from your assignment. Sometimes obedience will cost you comfort. It may require walking away from environments that feel familiar. It may require ending cycles that have controlled your life for years. It may require for giving people who hurt you deeply. And forgiveness is one of the hardest acts of obedience because pain naturally wants revenge. But carrying bitterness only poisons your own spirit. God says some people cannot step into the next season because they are still holding on to anger from the last one. Obedience also requires consistency. It is easy to trust God when everything feels good, but real obedience shows up when life becomes uncomfortable. Will you still pray when answers seem delayed? Will you still remain faithful when nobody is applauding you? Will you still choose integrity when compromise would be easier? These moments reveal the true condition of your heart. Many people think obedience limits freedom, but the opposite is true. Disobedience often creates bondage. Bad decisions create consequences that trap people emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. But obedience creates protection. God's instructions are not designed to control you, they are designed to guide you toward RD, life, peace, and purpose. There are blessings you cannot force through manipulation, shortcuts, or human effort alone. Some doors only open through alignment with God's will. You may have the talent, the ambition, and the desire, but if your spirit is out of alignment, frustration will continue following you. That is why obedience matters more than appearances. God looks beyond public image and examines the condition of the heart. And hear this clearly. Obedience is not always about dramatic action. Sometimes it is found in small daily decisions. Choosing discipline over laziness, choosing honesty over deception, choosing humility over pride, choosing faith over excuses. Little acts of obedience repeated consistently create massive transformation over time. The enemy fights obedience because he understands its power. He knows that once a person fully surrenders to God, chains begin breaking, purpose begins awakening, direction becomes clear, peace becomes normal. That is, distractions constantly surround people who are close to breakthrough. The enemy wants you emotionally exhausted, spiritually distracted, and mentally confused because confusion delays obedience. But God says your obedience today can unlock blessings you cannot yet imagine. One decision can shift your entire future. One act of surrender can create peace you have been searching for. One moment of trusting God fully can open doors that fear kept closed for years. Stop waiting until you feel completely ready. Most people never feel fully ready when God calls them higher. Growth always feels uncomfortable in the beginning, but obedience creates momentum. The moment you take one step toward God's direction, strength begins rising inside you for the next step. God says this is the season to stop resisting His voice. Stop running from the assignment placed on your life. Stop delaying the changes you already know need to happen. Your breakthrough is connected to your obedience in the mom. Do you fully surrender? You will begin to see God move in ways you never expected. There are moments in life when people feel completely invisible. They wake up carrying silent pain, go through daily routines with heavy hearts, and wonder if anyone truly notices what they are going through. Some people have cried in private so many times that they learned how to hide their pain behind smiles. Others have spent years feeling overlooked, rejected, or forgotten by the world around them. But God says heaven sees you, even when people do not. One of the enemy's greatest lies is convincing people that they are alone. Isolation weakens the spirit because when people believe nobody cares, hopelessness begins growing inside them. That is why so many people silently battle anxiety, fear, and emotional exhaustion while pretending everything is fine on the outside. But God never ignores hidden pain. He sees every tear, every disappointment, every betrayal, and every moment you felt abandoned. There are people listening right now who feel like they have done everything they know to do, yet life still feels heavy. You prayed, waited, sacrificed, and stayed faithful. But the breakthrough did not come when you expected it. And slowly frustration started turning into discouragement. You began wondering whether your prayers were even reaching heaven. But God says just because you have not seen the answer yet does not mean He has stopped listening. You must understand something powerful. Heaven pays attention to details humans overlook. People often judge by appearances, success, popularity, or status, but God looks at the heart. He sees the battles nobody applauds. He sees the discipline nobody notices. He sees the moments you kept going even when you felt emotionally exhausted. And those hidden moments matter more than you realize. Some of the greatest people in history went through seasons where they felt unseen. They were misunderstood, rejected, and underestimated before stepping into purpose. Why? Because preparation often happens in hidden places. God develops strength privately before revealing purpose publicly. The world celebrates visible success, but heaven values hidden character. There are times when God allows isolation because distractions are blocking your spiritual growth. Not everyone who walks away from your life was meant to stay there permanently. Some relationships ended because they were slowing down your purpose. Some people only appreciated what you could give them, not who you truly were. And while rejection hurts, sometimes rejection is actually redirection. God says stop measuring your value by who failed to recognize you. Human approval is temporary and unstable. Some people will only support you when you are useful to them. Others will misunderstand your intentions no matter how genuine your heart is. But your identity was never supposed to be built on human validation. Your worth was established by God long before anyone formed had an opinion about you. There are people who stopped believing in themselves because life became too painful. Trauma changed the way they see themselves. Failure damaged their confidence. Rejection created insecurity. And now they struggle to believe anything good could still happen for them. But God says your broken moments did not destroy your value. Pain may have wounded you emotionally, but it did not erase your purpose. Heaven sees the battles you never talk about publicly. The nights you stayed awake worrying about your future. The moments you felt emotionally drained but still kept moving forward. The times you wanted to quit but somehow found strength to continue. Those moments matter. God sees strength in you that you do not even recognize in yourself yet. And hear this clearly. God is not only watching your struggle, He is also preparing restoration. Some people think their best days are behind them because of everything they lost. But God can restore peace after chaos. He can restore confidence after rejection. He can restore joy after heartbreak. Nothing is too broken for God to rebuild. Do not allow temporary seasons to define your permanent identity. Just because you feel unseen today does not mean you are forgotten. Seeds remain hidden underground for a season before growth becomes visible. In the same way, your current hidden season does not mean your life lacks purpose. Something is developing beneath the surface. God says your story is not over. The pain you survive will eventually become part of the testimony that inspires others. The struggle that almost broke you will one day reveal the strength God placed inside you all along. Heaven has watched every step of your journey, and not one moment of your pain has been wasted. So lift your head again. Stop speaking defeat over your future. Stop believing the lie that you are invisible, forgotten, or unworthy. Heaven sees you. Heaven knows your name. And at the right moment, God will reveal what? You have to walk through everything you survive. Before this message ends, hear this with your spirit and not just your ears. Your life is not an accident. You were not created to live trapped in fear, buried in doubt, or broken by disappointment. God has carried you through battles that should have destroyed you, and the fact that you are still standing is proof that His hand has been upon your life the entire time. There were moments when you almost gave up, moments when the pressure became so heavy that you questioned whether you could continue. Yet somehow, strength kept rising inside you. That was not luck. That was God sustaining you even when you did not realize it. God says the season of thinking small is over. Stop limiting your future because of your past pain. Stop allowing temporary struggles to convince you that your destiny has disappeared. What God placed inside of you is still alive. Your purpose is still alive. Your calling is still alive. Do not let fear make you miss the opportunities heaven is placing in front of you. Walk forward in faith even if your steps feel uncertain. Trust God even when you cannot see the full picture yet. Every delay, every heartbreak, every closed door, and every difficult season has been shaping you into the person you were meant to become. And remember this, sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen right after the hardest battles. The enemy fights hardest against people who are closest to transformation. So if life has been difficult lately, do not lose hope. God may be preparing to shift things in ways you never expected. Keep praying, keep believing, keep moving forward. Refuse to surrender to negativity, bitterness, or despair. The story is not finished yet. God is still writing chapters you cannot see right now. If this message touched your heart today, take a moment and declare with bold faith, God is leading me into my new season. Speak it over your life. Believe it in your spirit and never forget that heaven sees you, heaven hears you, and heaven is already making a way where you thought there was none.